So Richard, thanks for your time. We were talking earlier about the parenting style differences and how when a lot of Korean people actually finally summon up the courage and take out the time to go somewhere for like a month or so with their children or child, they automatically feel some obsession or some pressure to have to come up with program or schedule for their child. What do you think about that? You were talking about your own approach to it.
But every culture is going to be quite different. I think Korea is pretty well known for kind of a competitive nature. So I can understand where that might come from. My personal take from my own cultural background is that I recognize that can exist in where I'm from as well. For myself, I also sometimes need time to unwind and to relax.
Tell me a little bit about what you did with your daughter when she was younger.
Yeah, when she was a little bit older, maybe not very, very young, but when she was maybe like 6, 7 or so, we started going away for periods of time. 3, 4 weeks, and we didn't really have a huge program for her to follow every day. It was an opportunity for her to kind of unwind and to just let the culture and the different things around her just sort of wash over her. Because for a child there's a lot to take in. They don't necessarily think in the same way as we do as adults, and they do need downtime as well. Remember they've had a whole year at school having a really strict regimen system. For me it's always been important to do that because I know I need that myself, and so I think that my child also needs it.
What you said about you needing that kind of time to relax a little bit and wind down a little bit is tied to a lot of Korean adults not being able to actually have a lot of free time and times when they don't have anything to do. That's why they might not have good imagination for their children, not having to do anything in particular.
What do you do then in Korea when you get to retirement age?
So it's shifting, it's changing so rapidly because like maybe 40 years ago, 30 years ago, basically in my parents' generation, they were actually able to retire. And then they will have saved up enough money, or at least their living expenses will be low enough that they don't have to worry about it. But these days, there's no real retirement age for people of my generation. They feel, I think, a lot of pressure about the fact that they will either have to continue working forever or they will have to have amassed some kind of, wealth through real estate or some financial investment, something like that. There's definitely a lot of pressure in the air that people feel for some level of success they will have to achieve in order for more freedom in their later years. So I don't think people have a clear vision of what retirement looks like in Korea. So that is why they just work too much and they don't know what kids will possibly want to do in their free time.
It's an interesting concept for me. So do people look forward to this? Is there something people look forward to?
Like retiring or working hard?
I'm kind of interested in understanding the motivation because I guess you have goals, but then there's always another goal.
Yeah.
Is there time to enjoy the goals that you have?
That's the thing. That's a message that many people try to convey to the general public in Korea. But people in their formative years, they don't have time to think about what they want to do. In my high school years, I went to school by 7 a.m. and when I was living in the school dormitory in my final year, I was encouraged to study until 1:30 a.m.
Wow.
So that's different from what you've been through?
Yeah, quite a lot. When you see countries like France, which is well known for having lots of holiday days and working a lot fewer hours a week, what are your perceptions of countries like these when you work with them on a professional level? Do you see them as not achieving, or do you feel that what you're doing is better than that, or something you prefer? How do you perceive these people?
That's a great question. I am in the middle of those two cultures, other cultures in Korea. People think it's great that they are able to do that. And then many people who live overseas with their children especially, they actually can let their children have fun and have freedom because everybody, we are a social animal and we are influenced by our peers. So when Koreans overseas, when they see other people raising their children the way you just described, they don't see any problem with that. But then when they come back to Korea, that's when the problem starts arising again. Like
So it's kind of a social pressure.
social pressure. And so when they see French people, for example, finishing their work at like 4:30 p.m. and when I travel in Europe, I see people like drinking beer at 5 p.m. and they just got off work, right? Whenever we have social gatherings in my neighborhood, I rarely see other fathers who attend those gatherings because they're usually like working till very late.
So how does that affect family relationships? How does it affect your relationships in Korea with your children? If you're not at home and you're working until the hours you're describing,
I mean,
when does the interaction as a family take place?
it's usually the father who does that, and it's not that the fathers don't care, they
Oh,
do.
no, I imagine they would.
And they have to try harder than say fathers in other cultures because of the deficit of like the lack of
Yeah.
time they get to spend with their children. A lot of people actually come home every night after their child goes to bed. There's no, like, they can watch them
Okay.
sleep,
Okay.
but there's no interaction. So they actually go to work on Monday morning, and then the next time they can interact with their child is the next Saturday morning, once a week for 2 days.
I mean, how does that feel for people?
It's like people say, 어쩔 수 없지, like there's nothing you can do about it in many ways.
Okay.
But I don't see.
But is it a thing that people miss though? I mean, is it something that
Yeah.
you look maybe at another country, or when you travel like you described, and you said some people, Koreans that live abroad maybe adopt a different approach to this because they don't have the social pressure when they're back in Korea. Is it something that people in Korea are also conscious of and miss, that interaction? Because like you say, they care about their kids, right? It's not that they don't care, it's they care.
Yeah, I think it kind of boils down to the core belief around college entrance, college education,
Okay.
like related to people believing that, you know, going to a good prestigious college will kind of guarantee success and therefore happiness. That was the equation that many people kind of sought after, but I think it's broken now, that equation.
Okay. Because I mean, you said to me as well that the population in Korea is actually going down.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, because obviously we're talking about Korea, and there are a lot of people in Korea, and there are a lot of people that work at different jobs, and they're in different positions. Do you think this is something that you see on all levels of society, or do you think it's just something that affects people who maybe pursue a university degree in a career that requires that?
I think it's happening to all walks of life, all like types of people. The fact that we are here, I mean, I'm meeting you for the first time during this event, which is the Polyglot Gathering, which I love, and I'm looking forward to going to your Polyglot Conference, by the way, in Malta,
you.
right?
Yes.
The fact that I am here makes me so happy because although this is a gathering about languages, when people learn languages, they learn about other and they broaden their
Yes.
horizons and perspectives about the world, and we get to talk about the different ways of raising children. Hi, Juro. He's going to be hosting the capoeira workshop, which I will join.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
Wonderful.
So talking about different languages helps me stay kind of balanced
Okay.
between the Korean culture and the diverse different types of cultures around the world. So talking to you got me thinking, what's a good way to, you know, give my children freedom, free time?
I think it's always a discussion as well with children. So my own personal beliefs are obviously going to be based on my lived experiences. I think that every culture is obviously different. So for me personally, it was always a discussion at home. What do you want to do? What do you like?
Yeah.
What do you want to experience? So my daughter picked the first destination we went on for one of these trips. She picked it.
How old is she?
7.
7. And you...
She picked Disneyland
Okay.
in the US.
I see. And you went along with the plan.
And we went with a plan. So what we decided to do is we agreed that we share experiences. So my wife wanted to go to Miami. She'd always seen it on TV and was interested in seeing what it was about.
Yeah.
Because seeing it on TV and then going and being in that film almost is a different thing. And for me, I just wanted to see friends and enjoy. We had one stopover in Austria on the way where we went to a Christmas market, and that was quite nice. And then I saw a friend in Canada on the way back, just for one night as well. And it was just lucky that the connections were that way, but I made the most of all of that and the people we met. But the thing was that process of agreeing as as a family as well, we do something for everyone. So because we need to do that as adults, we need to give and take, whether it's at school or university or at work. There's always a compromise that needs to be reached. And so the lessons of what a child might want to do that maybe you may not see value in for yourself, actually you could be surprised.
Right.
Because your child might want to, I don't know, just build sandcastles on the beach.
Yeah, that's the thing. People always worry that if they don't study on the side, like academically, attending all these hagwons, like private institutes and cram schools, because elementary school kids in Korea often attend like 10 different hagwons.
Okay, wow.
Weekly schedule is like full. My children don't do anything like that similarly. But when that happens, I mean, maybe that happens because people worry that they need to fill all these gaps in order to be equally successful compared to other people. And then those things will cost you money.
Yeah.
And instead of one parent staying at home for the child, they will have to both work.
Oh, wow.
And in so many households, like 70%, 80% of one parent's income going down the drain, like because of all the extra curricular activities that they do. Therefore, as a result, they don't have time to play with the child. And so 10 hagwons a week, it means like 3-4 consecutive like classes that you have to take, and then the child is also exhausted. So all they want to do is screen time.
Okay. And so where does the relationship building come in? Like having a real, like knowing your parents and really knowing your parents. I'm not talking, so everyone knows their parents, but I mean having time to talk about the family history, about how they feel about certain things, their experiences that they had as a child and what their hopes and dreams are. Is there time for all of this stuff?
You know what? You're the first person that has ever asked me that. We don't have that conversation, as a culture. We don't.
I guess the question's going to be, I mean, not every individual is going to be able to go to the best university because there are limited places.
Yeah.
And not everyone's going to get the most prestigious jobs because there are only so many of them, right? And we can't all be managers or directors. Some of us have to work normal jobs. And those jobs are really important to society because if you don't have that person who smiles at you in the morning and sells you coffee to start your day the right way and make you feel happy, and you enjoy the interaction and you talk to them a little bit because you get to know them. They become part of an important part of your routine. If you don't have those people, I'd hate to think of them not being successful because they are. Is success just one thing? How is success seen in Korea?
Success in Korea is definitely seen in very simplistic terms and simplistic views, mainly money, I think.
Okay.
And it's a very comparative culture. Not necessarily in a toxic way only, but people do compare a lot, like a lot more than in other cultures. Like, money is easy to compare. Who's driving the better car?
Who's got the most?
Who's got a bigger house and stuff like that? Who's got the most?
Is there an end to that? I mean, that chasing a bigger house, bigger car. I'm trying to understand where that leads to. Like, is there an end point, or is it just keep going forever until you die?
I don't know. I mean, people have been, again, too busy to think about that. It's when big events, like, somebody's passing, in those moments that people really think about life and will have their, I guess, first regrets.
And do you hear those kinds of stories when someone passes? And I don't know what the funeral ceremonies are like in Korea, but I'm sure that you have conversations as people who knew the person who passed. Those reflective moments, do they awaken some change in behavior sometimes, or is that?
To a degree, but we are influenced by the social structure, the environment. So not completely. You don't go back to a completely new lifestyle just because of one or two incidents. That's, of course, part of what culture is. It's a very strong force, right?
Okay.
That's why you have to come out of your country every now and then and meet people who speak like 30 different languages. It's a little bit worrying, although it's a beautiful culture where people are really nice. I feel like education, or the competitive education, just with some sort of superficial success as the end goal, that's what's, I think, causing a lot of the issues.
It's kind of an interesting thing because I've spent a few days in Korea, in Seoul, and I know that you enjoy food, good food, tasty food, and it's really is very nice. It sounds like, from what you're saying, the thought processes aren't always there in the same way as maybe you save the food as you do for the certain moments or milestones in life.
That's true in a way. I mean, people enjoying great foods, always looking for great coffee shops with great interior designs. Like we have so many like
Yeah, they're beautiful.
hip coffee
Yeah,
shops.
yeah.
There's so many, and people do that because there are, I guess, in other aspects, fewer bigger joys that they can kind of pursue. I don't know, like lying on the beach, taking a walk without trying to lose weight or without like just for the sake of it. People don't do that. People are too busy. I think it all comes down to people being too busy. Now that I think about it, the problem is that when young adults enter working, I guess, age,
Yeah.
they're already used to it. They've been trained their whole teenage life. They've been trained to work long hours. I was trained to work long hours, and that was also seen as a virtue. Oh, you
Oh,
work
okay.
hard. Like we have the saying, 엉덩이가 무겁다. You have a heavy butt, which means you don't get up as often. You can stay in your seat
Yeah.
for like 8 hours.
Okay.
That was seen as a virtue, which means you can, of course, absorb a lot of knowledge and do well in exams. But to what end? You know?
And how does that affect the mental health? I mean, Korea, like every other society, and you're not all the same. You don't all think the same way. You don't all react the same way. You have different things going on in your heads, right? And if people are working that many hours, how is it for people who don't fit that mold?
I'm not an expert in that field, but a lot of experts actually mention a crisis in people's mental health. So there's more talk about this. I don't know. Maybe if it's a selfish decision that I don't send my kids to like all these mathematics cram schools and stuff like that. Maybe they'll miss out on something. Maybe they'll
Yeah.
lag behind. But for now, my wife and I feel that very strongly. We feel that that's not important. They have to just play until they are like tired and they go to bed.
I mean, I think this is the interesting thing because you said that when Koreans go abroad and they see other cultures, you're not kind of judging them as lower or inferior, which is interesting because they don't do these things, but they're still going into business and doing dealings with Korea and I guess doing similar things, right? But they're just not doing the same number of hours. And when you hear about systems where things are very different, like Finland, their education system is very, very different to most places.
I think a lot of Koreans, or most Koreans, do know that the number of hours that kids spend in classes don't directly correlate to how well they learn or how happy they will be. And it's not even like everybody will become rich. That's not
Exactly.
how economy works. So I hope that changes a lot. And I am, at least for myself, I am trying to give my children a better or happier or at least more relaxed future, a stress-free future. So these questions that you've asked me on camera and off camera earlier help me a lot.
The thing is, I only question, and I like to hear the answers people have. People are listening from Korea. It's your culture and it's your destiny, and however you choose for you and your family is that you know yourselves best and what you feel comfortable with. Change will happen anyway in every society because that's just the natural way of things. But I hope that our conversation has helped people to think about decisions that are important for them as individuals and for their children and for their families.
Yeah, I know for a fact that it has helped me immensely. Coming here was a big decision because I had to fly, thousands of kilometers away from Korea. It's not an easy thing to do for everybody, but knowing that I would run into you and talk to you made it much easier.
Oh, thank you very much. 감사합니다.
감사합니다. See you around.
See you around.
Thank you for your time.